to the most unpredictable podcast on the World Wide Web.
It's about to shut it.
Shut it! Say it loud. Hosted by Karen House.
Down. Hey.
Bringing up all major platforms, and you are locked in.
You are locked in.
You know what it is. Pour up a glass of wine, ladies. Let the Henny flow, fellas. And get ready to turn the fucking meter up to lip scatter. It's Karen Hill live on Say It Loud Radio on your favorite internet platform, streaming live.
Hey, it is another episode of Say It Loud, and we have a guest this week. I wanted to bring him in for the March Madness, so we could talk ball with Mr. Trevor Williams Jr. What up, Coach?
How you doing? How you doing? Again, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I've listened to your show. You're very funny. It's very unpredictable, but it's good. I like it.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. So some people love it. Some people, I don't know. It's an palette.
It's you. Trust me, it's you.
Yeah.
Outgoing and straightforward. Like it's you.
Yeah, it is. Why don't you tell everybody who you are? Because some of my guests may not know Mr. Coach Trevor Williams Jr. is.
All right. So Coach Trevor Williams. My name is Coach Trevor Williams. I'm assistant coach at Rampo College. I've been there 6 years. This past season would have been 7, but because of COVID, we chose not to have a season. We thought that was, in our best interest not to have a season this year. So we're one of 2 teams in our conference to opt out.
Oh,
but
wow.
I've been coaching on the college level 6 years. I've been coaching travel basketball. Some people know it as AAU for 10 plus years. And I've just been around basketball. I'm 35. I've been around basketball for, 30 years, so.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yep.
That's amazing. So you guys opted out this year? How did that go down?
So because with COVID, the conference and the NCAA require like a certain amount of tests per week. And being that our school's a small school, the funding for that, we couldn't come up with a reasonable amount that they wanted to pay to fund all of the athletic departments.
So you had
not just our school.
Schools had to pay for that?
Yeah, the school out of pocket. And being because of COVID and a lot of kids opted to stay home, they lost out on millions of dollars. Right. So they're in debt for $1 million, and for them to pay for kids to still be playing, they thought that it's obviously, student first. They just like, you know what, it's just gonna be too much money because each team is kind of required about $100,000, to test 3 times a week. So they would probably do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And with our conference, they, okayed for 8 games. So you play Friday, Saturday, the same team. So you won't have to travel, and being with COVID, you only play teams within state. You can't drive out of state. And our coach with just the timing and everything, and when they want to approve us to play, conditioning, it only would have been 2 weeks and then we would have to play.
Right.
Now, with my team, because we lost 8 seniors last season, we brought in 14 freshmen. So we're starting brand new.
Right, it's a new team.
2 weeks to prepare for teams that has seniors, juniors, upperclassmen. It'll put ourselves in a hole, and he just didn't want to do that. So we opted out. And, we'll start this fall, God willing, if COVID is still not the issue.
Oh, man. So you had a whole season you guys couldn't even play.
Listen, I'm watching some of those 8 teams that are in it play, and it's tough, because I know our kids wanted to play. They would, if it's 1 game, 2 games, 8 games, They wanted to play. But I told them I feel like this was the best, choice. I totally agree. I felt like, I wanted with this group to start from that September, do conditioning for a month or 2, get into the season, just to give them a fair shot instead of kind of throwing them into the wolf 2 weeks and then go play a game.
Right.
So
yeah, definitely. Especially with all the new people on the team. It's not a conditioning team. So
14 new,
Yeah, you got to bring them all up to speed, and 2 weeks is not going to cut it to do that. I wanted to really talk about basketball from the perspective of a parent, with you and really share that with the people that listen to my show, because I feel like we have kids and everybody is always like, oh, my son's really good at basketball or my daughter's really good at basketball, they're gonna play. And I don't think we're equipped sometimes as parents to understand the work that needs to go in from that point of view to support a child. So like, how can parents support their student athletes, not only at this time during COVID, but just in the whole process of going to college and playing ball?
I would say number one is making sure your kid is prepared academically. Because, like, listen, when you see that word student athlete, I always say student first. That's why they put it first, then the athlete second. So as a parent myself, obviously I got a young one. He's about to be 11 months, be a year next month.
Congrats.
And just being around these kids for so many years, like the first thing I tell parents is kind of knowing what you're getting yourself into. And obviously we have Google now. Everything is on the internet. You could do your own research. So like step one is making sure your kid is academically eligible, making sure they're taking the right classes, making sure they're keeping up with their grades, you know, A's and B's, you know, the higher the better. Making sure they're taking the SAT when, you know, the SAT is, you know, available, ACT if that's an option. And just kind of teach them like time management. Like a lot of it, when you get to that next level, you know, a lot of it is time management because you're gonna have a lot more time on your hands, and a lot of kids don't know how to deal with that, you know, especially like that freshman year. Just keep it on that time management, like knowing how to work out, getting a trainer and working out on the proper stuff. You know, a lot of these guys go work out for an hour, 2 hours and not really developing anything. It's just a lot of bad habits. So kind of coming up with like a schedule with you and the parent, you know, as a parent, coming up with a schedule with your kid, when they're going to train, when they're going to condition it. Obviously, you know, make sure they eat right, make sure they get the proper sleep. All that, you know, is a factor into it. But like I said, most important is just keeping your grades up. I would say second, that time management, and it's very huge, especially as you get, you know, to college. And listen, it goes the same way in the business world, you know, making sure you're managing your time properly, obviously staying organized, and, you know, just keeping that positive attitude. Like I always said, like that, I always end with that. Just keep that positive attitude with everything you do.
That's dope. I think I also want to ask, as far as like preparing, what about the kids that are like, you know what, I don't know if I could go to college. I had a student, you know, in my real life, I'm an educator, and I had a student that could play ball, but he was like, I can't go to college. And I was like, well, why not?
Is it financially, or is it like academically he's not like qualified?
I mean, he told me flat out, he's like, my mother can't afford to send me to school.
So
and I was like, this kid is talented.
Yeah,
you know?
And that happens a lot, you know. And listen, I deal with kids from the inner city. I deal with kids from, you know, wealthy families, you know, so all aspects of life, all races and stuff like that. And it's tough as a parent when you go recruit a kid and he's special. You know, the kid he's a high character kid. He's talented. He works hard and stuff like that. But, you know, financially, he just doesn't come from money.
Right.
So his route, you know, and it goes from state to state. They have their different grants and stuff like they do within the states. So me being that I work in Jersey, we have a thing called EOF. Is an equal opportunity. I think it's equal opportunity fund. So what that does specifically, and New York has their own thing, similar, different needs. So what that does specifically is the kids, depending on, you know, how many people's in the house, independence and stuff like that, and the family overall income, it gives the kid an opportunity that doesn't have it financially. It will pay for them to go to school. And some of it is where it's free or it's manageable for that family. So let's say our school is, for in-state kid is 26. It'll give the kid over $20,000, $22,000.
Right.
So now instead of paying 26, you know, and that's living on campus, the kid will pay, you know, maybe $6,000. He just has to come out of pocket $6,000 a year. That's manageable, you know, for a family. They could probably find that. Now, if that's an issue now, as a coach, and a lot of coaches don't do this, but I do this, because like I'm the type of coach, I keep it real with the kids. So yes, I recruit them to try to come to Rampo, but I'm also trying to recruit them to graduate and just be overall good men, positive men in our community. So like, I would tell them like, yo, listen, if JUCO is the route for you, instead of paying 4 years of college, go to JUCO, develop yourself, obviously work on your grades and get an associate's, and then go to a 4 year. So now you don't have to pay 4 years, you don't have to pay 2. So I push that on a lot of kids. And that's a lot more affordable to a family. Community college is maybe a couple $1,000, maybe $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, depending on how many classes you take. So like I'll push that on kids. I also push trades on kids. Especially if they don't know, all right, college is not for me. Learning a trade. I tell these kids you can make a lot of money. Learning a trade. You don't necessarily have to get a degree and stuff like that. And we all see the stories, we hear it. A lot of, either they dropping out or they're not going to college and they're still billionaires, millionaires, and stuff like that. It's all a hustle. Like I always tell kids, like, what else do you want to do? Like if it's not basketball and stuff like that, I always try to ask questions, ask them like, what is it that you want to do if it's not basketball? And I feel like every kid should have at least 1 or 2 options. It can't just be basketball, because I tell kids the numbers are scary when you go kids that play Division 1, kids that play Division 2, kids that play Division 3. In Division 1, is 300 something teams, and you do the math, that's 12 kids per team. In Division 2 is about 200, in Division 3 is 4 and change. So the odds that you're going to play at that level are very low. We got 1 million and something kids in the United States. Not a lot of them is not going to make it to play at that level. And they have to understand that, once I graduate, what do I want to do? And as a parent, you should be discussing that with your child as well.
I mean, a lot of parents should, and you would think they would, but that's why we're having this conversation now, because I think a lot of times we're not doing that, right? We're just having these conversations like, oh, he want to play ball and that's it. Or we leave our students to try to navigate the waters of that process on their own. And a lot of kids that are from Black and brown communities, they actually need that support system through the entire process, not just, okay, this is what I want to do, but now how am I going to execute it and make sure that it happens for me, And then if it doesn't happen the way I want, what else do I have, as a plan? So I think that those are conversations.
That's 100% right. Like that conversation got to be ongoing though. I tell parents that got to be ongoing because kids could change their mind 1 minute. We hear the stories where kids want one thing and then they change their mind. They fall in love. They fall in love with basketball. As easy as they fall in love, they can fall out of love with it. So that's an ongoing conversation that parents should be having with their child. Like, what do you want to do? Obviously, I always say, like, you should have a list. By the time you get to your senior, junior, senior year, you should have a list of schools that you're looking at. You should be contacting these coaches. Don't wait for your high school coach or your AAU coach to do it. If you're interested in school, make sure they have your major. If you're undecided, obviously you can look at multiple majors. But that's what you should be looking at. Looking at the school, have your major. Obviously looking at the location, looking at the graduation rate. What are they doing? What are they alumni? The networking like? Because that's what you're gonna, at the end of the day, when you graduate college, that's what you're gonna bank on. The networking, what are they alumni like? Because those are the first people you should be reaching out to. Those are the ones that's gonna give you that job.
So I have never heard that before, but that's really good advice that you should be reaching out to the coaches and looking at the school.
Email. Listen, all that stuff is visible. You go to their roster, they have their coach's email and stuff like that. Just introducing yourself so that coach has you on their radar.
Right.
Whether it's the parent writing it, or the student. Obviously, as parents, I always tell you should be filming as early as possible. Obviously, we all have phones, so if you can't afford a nicer camera, you can use your phone. But you should be filming everything, going over that stuff, watching it, analyzing it, stuff like that. And like I said, as a parent, if you're not really involved or know the sport too much, the kid could go ask a coach. You can ask somebody that plays, try to get that second feedback, like, is there certain things that I could work on and stuff like that. But the more you reach out to coaches, just your schools and stuff like that, as a coach, that shows that you're interested. And a lot of times that's how I got a few players, guys reaching out through email, sending their videos, sending their SAT and their GPA, and we end up contacting them through cell phone or whatever. And we build that relationship, and then we go to games. So it's a lot easier. Like.
Okay, so I just want to say to all the parents that are listening, or even all the young people that might be listening, I don't know, because this is usually for adults, but if you have a camera, you should now be putting your reel together, right? Like, don't wait. You should be creating, like, they got all these apps for your phones. You should be using this time to put your highlighting reel together so that when because that's going to be your resume, that's going to be your voice. That is what you're going to be sending to the school. So you need to make sure that that's done. And if your kid is on the court, then mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, whoever it is, that is your job to make sure that you're documenting that, because you not doing that is doing a disservice to that child as 100%. Far as what their goals are. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. What is the recruitment process like on your end? So
for me, how do I go about recruiting? And like I said, every program has their own way to go about it. But what we like to do, we come up with a list, whether we go by position, point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, or we just come up with guards, forwards. You know, depending on the school, you got the 5 positions, and then you have your top point guard that you're looking out for, and your top center. But we like to do guards, forwards. You know, we play a 4 out, 1 in, so the majority of it, you know, you got to be guards, forwards.
Right.
And we sit down as coaches at the end of the season. We do evaluations, each player, so we bring them in, we have conversations with them. Obviously, with Division III, you're not bound by a scholarship, so guys can leave. You know, like it's a lot. Guys transfer a lot like quicker and faster in Division III than Division I or II because you have a scholarship. You know, so with us, they're not leaving on scholarship. They're paying for school, the majority of them. You know, so like they could go to a school that's in our conference and play. But to get back on track, the recruiting process for us is what are our needs going into the new season? So let's say we keep about 18 guys, we play 12. So let's keep the number real simple. Let's say we got 15 guys and 12 are playing. Let's say we lose 6. What specifically are we losing? So if we're losing our lead point guard, we know we got to go out and get a point guard. And we can't look at just one. We got to have a list of 1 through 5. If we can't get our top guy, we got to, you know, make sure we at those games. You know, make sure we stay in contact with their coaches. You know, if we could show up for practices. Because like with me, when I recruit, I don't recruit you and just go to your games. I'm recruiting your parents because those are the ones that's paying for school. So I'm building a relationship with your parents, your mother, your father, whoever you live with, siblings. I'm building a relationship with your coaches, your travel basketball and your high school coach, because they're going to really tell me who you are. Sometimes as players, you're going to just say the positive. You're not going to tell me.
And tell me what I want to hear.
Exact same thing with highlights. Like to piggyback on the last thing you were just telling the parents, don't just show your highlights. Show the full game. Coaches want to see the full game. You know, they want to see how you are in certain situations. So yes, highlights are great, and highlights is always something positive, but show the full game because coaches can kind of analyze that a little bit better. But to get back on this, like, so we break it down. You know, if we're going out, we're trying to recruit a guard, you know, we're going through all those avenues. The parents, trying to recruit the parents, trying to recruit the AAU coach, trying to recruit the high school coach, and just building a relationship. And there's no guarantee at our level. There's no guarantee we're gonna get a kid. You know, I just did an interview with VOH basketball, and I was talking about a kid from South Jersey. I drove 2.5 hours, like twice a week to his games. Let's say he played 20 games. I was at 15 to 18 of them. No guarantee that I'm gonna get the kid. You know, and it took a toll on me because 2.5 hours. I'm like, please, I hope I get him.
Yeah,
and my wife, listen, that takes family time away and stuff like that. But I think what worked for me is I built a great relationship with his mom, and his mom, you know, saw like, oh, what I did perfect. So we had a game down in Camden. The kid's from South Jersey, so we had a game in Camden. I told my mom how much I'm very interested in the kid. And you know my mom, she's very outgoing. Everybody in the community loves my mom. She's like the ultimate team mom. So I told my mom, I need you to talk to this lady. And it was a black family, you know.
Yeah.
So my mom helped me recruit. And this is the first time she's done that.
Wow.
So my mom is at the game. The lady comes over to talk to my mom. The whole time we're actually playing the game. We won the game, thank God. The kid is watching. My mom is recruiting the kid's mom. Like, I'm at games. She said, listen. And she told me at the end of the day, this lady is just like me. So I knew that was like a, you know, a reward, but it still wasn't no guarantee. And just over the season, just recruiting him, staying in contact. Listen, recruiting is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week thing. You know, and the minute you let up, somebody else is putting pressure. So it's constant. So we stayed on the kid, and God willing, at the end, he decided to come to us. You know, but the kid was good. You know, he had offers, he had scholarships on the table. but he felt that we built a good enough relationship with him, and I built a good enough relationship with his mom that, you know, he chose us. He said, Coach, I want to go play for you.
Yeah, but I'm a mom. I'm gonna go where
you know.
I'm gonna send my child where I feel most comfortable, where they're gonna thrive, where I know they're gonna.
She felt like we were a family. She felt like, we are a family.
They're safe.
Exactly. So like that's what we do. We have like a brotherhood. We use that word a lot at Rambo. It's like a brotherhood. So we don't recruit kids. You're not coming to play for us just for 4 years, and then after 4 years we have nothing to do with you. No. You know, this is like a lifetime. You know, a lot of kids that play for me, even before I coach at the college level, they still got my number. They still reach out to me, ask me, you know, oh, Coach, could you give me a letter of recommendation? Hey, Coach, do you know about this job? Do you know about this area? Or Coach, I want to go live here. Do you know a realtor? Like whatever it may be, you know, personal issues. I tell kids, you have my number. You know, I'm a coach, but I'm a mentor first. So whatever you need, you know, give me a call. And I don't care what time it is. You know, like there's kids that call me late, you know, for whatever reason, they were out drinking, they wanted somebody to come get them. I say, you know, stay there, don't drive the car, I'll come get you.
Yeah, that's admirable.
And as a family, my wife is gonna understand that. Say, babe, I don't want this kid, you know, to end up either hurting himself or hurting somebody else. I'll go get him.
Right.
You know,
I gotta do what I gotta do. Yeah, no, that's admirable. And because I feel like, you know, we need to see more men of color. We need to see more Black men in those positions. And so when you're taking that role as a mentor or as a father figure or as just a guidance person in another person's life, let alone a young man, I think that's admirable. I think it's commendable. I think that it needs to be celebrated because 100%. There needs to be people there to do exactly what you just said, that you do for those kids, because that's part of the work. A lot of people think like, and I'm saying this as an educator, a lot of people think your job is just one thing, but it's not. It's it's a whole being and being there, you know, being there for them like holistically, not just for one particular area of their life. I was
like
just about
to piggyback on that. Like I always tell, you know, parents, and like anytime I give advice, I say the hardest job, obviously the best job and the hardest job is being a parent. But after being a parent is being a teacher. Like I think that's, you know, one of the best jobs because you're teaching the youth, you know. So for me, like a teacher is like a mom when the mom is not there. A teacher is so many different things. I could go down the line, you know, and like some of the people that I look at as mentors were my teachers.
Yeah. I will be the first person to admit it's not easy work. It's not easy work, but you do it, and you do it because you know you know what they need, and you just be there and give what you can give, and that's just part of the job. You know, that's part of once you get to know what it is. So I've known you for a very, very long time, and I remember all the trophies in your house. But I remember there was a lot. But when did you know like this is what you wanted to do?
So I fell in love with for me, I fell in love with basketball in 4th grade. You know, I started out 2 years in soccer. So 2nd and 3rd grade, those were my, you know, that was the first sport I tried. Obviously, I'm Jamaican, so coming up, in a Jamaican family, soccer is like everything. And I'm talking about not the American, you know, football that, you know, people get it twisted. I'm talking about regular soccer. So I played 2 years. My dad put me in there. I played for 2 years, like a little travel soccer team. And it was fun. We won 2 championships, but like it was more so trying to make my dad proud.
Right.
And then I met a kid named Larry Milligan, and his father was a coach, like a travel coach, and he coached at St. Joe's on Main Street in Spring Valley at the church. And he told his dad about me. And I went to a tryout. My mom was like, "Oh, you know, you sure you want to play basketball?" It's like, I'm gonna give it a try. It's something new. Maybe I can make friends, because I was very shy. So I was like, you know, maybe I'll make some friends, new friends, whatever. So I went that first day and just, you know, I was a kid with full of energy, so I loved to run. He had us running. But for me, it was just like, I come from soccer. I was like, yo, this is fun.
Right.
You know, like, you know, a soccer field is much bigger than the basketball court. So I was like, yo, I could run all day on the court, you know? And then, you know, everybody else is mad, and I was a kid just smiling. So the coach thought like I was like mocking him, like, oh, this is funny. I'm like, no, it's not funny. It's just like, I'm happy like to be here. And like that was like I just fell in love with basketball. Like that day, I was like, yo, this is what I want to do. You know, I'm asking my mom, when's practice? Oh my God, I didn't get to schedule it yet. So like, you know, those 2 hours, an hour and a half I'm practicing in 4th grade, like that was everything to me. And just over the years, basketball like showed me and taught me so many different things, you know, good and bad, but mostly good. And it made me, like, it helped me, you know, come out of my shell, be a little bit more outgoing and stuff like that. And just learning discipline, teamwork, so many different things, you know, basketball, I credit basketball for a lot.
So you've been playing for a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah.
You know, don't get me wrong, like I don't play it as competitively now because coaching is what I love now. But listen, you know, I love basketball. Like anybody that knows me, like basketball is life. Like I know that there's a saying, they got a whole Instagram thing now, but
football is life.
Yeah, it is. You know, everything for me revolves around that, you know, and stuff like that. But like I love the game, you know, like I always say, like that's the only thing that could cheat on me, and I don't mind, you know. Like I've traveled around, you know, the whole United States basketball. I've seen a lot of places because of, you know, basketball. So I owe a lot to the game. And like I never cheat the game. You know, I give it 110% every time I step on the court. Like I'm just that type of player. You know, I wasn't overly, you know, athletic. I wasn't the biggest player, the tallest player, but I played hard. I played with heart, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And is that the same mentality you go into your coaching with?
Yes. When I recruit kids, I love kids that play hard. You know, like I love kids that is going to run through a brick wall for their coaches. That's coachable, you know, because that's very important. You know, like I always tell kids, you know, talent versus a coachable kid. You know, you could be the talented kid in the world, but if your attitude is negative, if you bring off like a bad energy, like I'm gonna pass on that kid. You know, I'll take the kid that's coachable. I can coach him up. He's gonna run through a brick wall for me, and I'm fine with that. But those are the kids that's gonna play hard.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And those are the kids that are gonna grow, because you don't grow just by thinking you know everything. Not, especially not at that age. None of us, but especially at that age. You know what I mean? Like you might be good in the park or on the basketball court somewhere else, but now we're playing on a level. You got to be able to grow to that level. And I think sometimes, you know, kids are like, nah, but I'm real good. Yeah, you are. But you got to be able to now grow to the next level, not come in thinking like, you know what I'm saying?
Like I tell kids, and we see it as parents, listen, every kid that plays basketball is going to overhype themselves. No one really like, you know, say, oh, I'm at this level when they're really at this level. You know, they're always going to overhype. And parents do the same thing. You know, they think their kid is going Division I or my kid's Division I. But you got to be real with yourself. Like, listen, if your kid wants to play and have a good college experience, you know, he's a Division III player, you know, Division II player. You know, but everybody is chasing, you know, that Division I, but it's not that easy. And they got to understand that.
So that's my next question, Mr. Williams. What are parents not supposed to do? Because I think that's the next thing. Like, we know what we need to do to support our kids. What are you not supposed to do as a parent?
So I always, like, and it's going to sound funny, like, listen, as a parent, you're supposed to be a cheerleader, not a coach. So let the coaches coach, and you cheer for your son or your daughter. A lot of times, parents get that mixed up, and then there could be a friction between the coach, you know, and that player. And I always say, you know, as players, you know, a former player, now a coach, you know, you have to, you know, give your kids some responsibility, hold them self-accountable. You know, you can't be kind of babying them through every step of the way. You know, let them take some responsibility. You know, if they got a workout schedule, they should know that. They shouldn't have to, you shouldn't have to be telling them, oh, wake up at this time. They should be alarm set. You know, I got to work out from 7 to 9. Mom, it's 6:30. We got to get on the road. Like, hold them accountable. You know, you should know your schedule, you know, academically and athletically. So as parents, I always say, be a cheerleader. Obviously, you know, stay positive, motivate your kids, but just be real with yourself first and be real with your, you know, son or daughter. You know, continue to cheer them on. Obviously, you know, stay positive. Make sure you push academics first, because it's like I said, we talked in the beginning, student first, athlete second. So if the grades ain't, you know, as high as possible, and stuff like that, it's gonna be a lot harder for your kids to get into college. You know, so just make sure you push it.
give up because of that. I think a lot of them do give up because of that. They just feel like, well, you know, I don't have good grades. And instead of trying to get good grades, they'll just be like, forget it.
Listen, college ain't easy. It's not cheap. So you don't want to, you know, if your kid is struggling in high school, you know, put them through 4 years of college and pay all this money, and then he fails out or, you know, stuff like that. And it's waste, you don't get that money back.
Right.
So start them from young, hold them accountable, making sure that they, you know, taking that schoolwork serious, and, you know, try to aim for that A and B, you know, don't settle for C's and D's. And just keep pushing them, you know, because when they get to college and you're not there to baby them, like I said, we talked earlier with that time management, they're gonna have to do that on their, you know, on their own.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
if they don't have that backbone, you know, that foundation from the beginning, is where they're gonna struggle.
Very true. So I want to know right now, let's get into some fun stuff. What are your, as far as like NBA teams, what is your favorite team? Who are we watching right now?
So I'm a Celtics and a Nets fan because I'm a Kyrie Irving fan. That's my favorite player. So I cheer for the Nets.
I'm only a Kyrie Irving fan because his name is so close to my name. So it has no reason. That's the only reason. When he writes it, it's K, and then I'm like, wait, that's my name. That's the only reason. Oh, and I like the sneakers. So Kyrie Irving.
Like who?
His sneakers.
Yeah. So like kids, you know, the kids love LeBron, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, Paul George, you know, and like all those guys. But I'm a Nets and Celtics. You know, if they playing each other, I'm going for the Nets. But if they're not, I'll cheer for both teams.
Yeah, the Nets have recently won me over. They have.
Listen, they got the victory, you know. And listen, the Knicks is doing better too. So the Knicks fans, they happy. Their team is winning right now. I think they're like 4th place in the East.
I used to ride for them really hard, but they embarrassed me so many times that I just gave up. It was like it was an emotional roller coaster for years, and I was just like, I'm done riding.
My best friend is a diehard Knicks fan. My dad, most of my family is Knicks fans.
My whole life.
They've been riding with them.
My whole life.
My dad's been riding with the Knicks before I was born. And he's never.
My whole life. You know what? They're doing better.
Yeah, they number 4 right now. Number 4 in the standings.
My very first basketball game was a New York Knicks game, and I must have been about maybe 10, 11 years old. So I think that experience of like being there for the first time, first ever game, it just kind of stuck with me. So after that, I was just like a diehard Knicks fan my entire life. And then when the Nets came to Brooklyn, I was like, I started hanging out there a lot more often and watching the games. I was like, oh, okay, I can get down with this. The team's moving a lot faster. And at that time, they were just more organized. So yeah, so that's where I am. But I'm always New York.
So I have a question for you. What was the thought process of like coming up with this show? Like, did you know, was it something that you always want to do yourself? Did you want to do it maybe with another girl, another guy, or a team? You know, what was the thought process? All right. Is it just because of the COVID? I was like, you know what, let me just do something.
Okay, so long story, and I'm going to tell you the whole long story, but I'm going to go as fast as I can. So I went to community college. I went to RCC. I have a undergrad degree I have an associate's degree in media communications, and I have a bachelor's in media communications, liberal studies. So I've always loved radio. I've interned at XM. I've worked at CBS. I've been up to Hot 97. I've been up to iHeart. And so this is what I always wanted to do. And then when I got divorced, I went and became a teacher because it would just work with my life and my kids. But I was feeling like something was missing.
Okay.
Like I wasn't
happy
enough. Yeah. I wasn't just happy like teaching. I was like, okay, this is great, but like this is easy. This isn't, you know. And then I was always on Instagram doing Friday Fuckery every Friday, just pumping out jokes and being funny because I was on the bus going into the city doing nothing, like just playing on my phone on the bus. And I did that.
That's when you was doing that the whole time?
Yeah.
So like going to work and then like coming home and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would just be putting jokes out because I'd be at the bus stop chilling, and then finally I told my daughter, I was like, yo, this can't be it. Like, this can't be my life. Just doing, like, just going back and forth teaching like this. I like it, but it's not enough for me. And then my daughter was like, so mom, what you gonna do? And I was like, all right, we're gonna drop a podcast. And I told a couple other people, they were like, Karen, what you waiting for? And I was like, I don't know, I'm scared, I gotta be vulnerable, I'm a little crazy, what about my job? And then we dropped the podcast, and within I think within like 4 months we was on the chart. We just I know a lot of people, which has been nice, and they come to the show and we have a good time and we talk about adult things. My demographics like 35 to 44, and that's pretty much it. That's the story, and so far so good. We've been in the charts in like 5-6 different countries. We won awards.
That's real good.
Okay, so your next question was it, so it was supposed to be other people on the show with me and have a co-host, but someone said to me, like, Karen, you could carry the show by yourself, and I was like, you think so? And then COVID hit, and it was just hard to get people to come, and we're in different places. I just started recording the show myself, and that's been it.
And the rest is history. Listen, at this point, you probably just, you're probably better off keeping it yourself. You build that foundation. You're doing good. Do you eventually want to have somebody else on the show?
No, I like, I like creatively to be able to just do what I want and get it crazy as I want. And it's really hard with my personality to find somebody that is comfortable in that space. And some conversations and people don't want to be like, we talk about sex a lot, we talk about all kind of stuff that some people might
listen. I know I listen and I'm just laughing.
They may not be comfortable
with it. Some people don't know you. Like, I know you my whole life, so like I know, you feel me? Like you the big sis. Like, I know, like, oh, like me and Kim be laughing, like me and Kim like crazy.
You didn't see the episode that just dropped yesterday?
Nah, I didn't watch that yet. I gotta watch.
Oh yes, Dick Pic 101.
Oh my, I'm my wife. That's for the ladies.
Yeah, no, it's for the guys. It's for the guys. We just telling you how to be your most photogenic self. You know what I mean? And make sure
taking a picture.
You know your angles. Well, the same way chicks know their angles, y'all dudes need to know your angles.
Nah.
That's all we saying. So it's very hard to get people who are comfortable in those spaces and in their skin to have those conversations. So the fact that I'm just like, it is what it is, so at this point, it's just me and whoever wants to join me. I have people come in and join me and guest, and we have a good time and we talk about whatever we talk about, and
How was your interview on the VOH? I saw that you was on there. Was it Never Took Your Time?
Yeah. It was good. It was fun. I've been on their show before, so it was good. Yeah, no, they're good. They treat me really well. I love them. They always show mad love to me and stuff like that. So, I saw you on there too. How was that?
It was good. Like, those guys are my brothers, so for me, it's not really an interview. Similar to this, like, I know you, so it's more of a conversation than an actual interview. So like, I felt comfortable. Like, some people ask me, were you nervous? So I was like, no. Like, I grew up playing against, Z, who was there, and then Brett. Like, I know Brett for years. We've known each other since like high school.
Yeah. Do you get the same questions over and over again?
Well, being that my profession, obviously, I work for Orange and Rockland full time, so that's like my actual profession. I work in the accounting department, and basketball is technically part-time, but me, I'm around basketball. There's never part-time basketball for me. So,
right.
I would tell people I'm a coach first, then I work for Orange and Rockland. Yeah. But like, some of the questions, just like, who am I? Obviously my upbringing and stuff like that, and then just like, recruiting process. So some of it is the same questions, but at the end of the day, there's a different audience. So there's always someone new listening that maybe need that information. Yeah,
I think it's really important. Like I said, when I invited you on the show, and we talked like way back about this, I just feel like there's a space we talk about it so freely, like wanting to play ball and wanting our kids to play ball, but we don't really think about like how to prepare ourselves for that. And I was thinking from a parent's perspective, a kid is going to be a kid. They don't know. But from a parent's perspective, from an education perspective, as an educator, like how do you prepare your child? How do you prepare yourself? How do you prepare your student? Because a lot of parents like just get up, go to school, play ball, and that's that, and then I understand like, you got a job to do here too, mom. You got a job to do here too, dad. Like my son was playing before COVID. He was playing 2 nights a week. It's like I'm sitting in my car for practice. Both of my girls played club softball. Cheyenne played traveling softball. She played for Pearl River. Like, you know what I mean? I don't like softball. I used to sit there bored as hell. Like I would actually write. No, seriously, that's how I started writing. Like all them TV shows you see me started writing and all those. I would be writing while my kid was playing softball. I paid for extra coaching lessons. Like the coach, you
were invested in your child. Like a good parent, you should be doing.
Yeah, and so I want parents to understand, like, if this is really what you want for your child, and you really about it and pushing them, then you have a job here too. Know your job, not to tell them what to do or do the work for your kid, but you have a job as a parent, making sure like they get to practice, that they're exercising, that you throwing the ball around with them, that if it's you got to eat 1,200 calories, then let me go cook whatever it is that you have to eat because they need that. I think a lot of times we just kind of put it on like whatever the coach says, whatever the school says, that's what we do, and we thinking about it from that perspective, not thinking about it like, this is a hands-on.
Because listen, at the end of the day, you're the parent, so your say is the final say. Because sometimes coaches could kind of persuade you in the wrong way, trainers could persuade you in the wrong way. So at the end of the day, as a parent, just having the knowledge, like I said, doing the research, making sure you stay on top of it. Obviously there's that NCAA clearinghouse. We didn't touch on that, but you gotta make sure your kid is qualified first. They meet all the credentials. You could go on NCAA and look up. All right, it goes by grade, depending on their GPA and what they got on the SAT. Does my kid qualify for Division 1, 2, and 3? So you can see the breakdown. It's clear, it's clear. It's right there for you. So as a parent, you could go on that and see, and just staying on top of teachers, staying on top of coaches, guidance counselors, and just making sure, that, your kid is, getting the proper attention, if he's applying for schools, making sure they're sending out transcripts and recommendations, whatever it may need. Just staying on top of them, because sometimes kids can be lazy and they can tell you one thing and they're not doing it. So as a parent, just stay on top of your kid.
Yeah, I definitely doing that work is important. I also think like you said, get on Google, look up stuff. My daughter, I actually paid for her to take the PSATs early. The school was like, we'll give it to her, but you got to pay for it. I was like, bet, because I actually let her take it every single year. So that she would be prepared when the SATs come. They were like, well, we're going to charge you $55. I was like, charge me whatever you want to charge me. I'm going to have her take it. My kid later on got into NYU twice. So I say that to say, not to show off. I say that to say that, like, sometimes you got to invest in your own kid. Like, I had to call the principal and was like, I want her to take it. They're like, well, she don't have to take it till 11th grade. I'm like, no, I want her to take it every single year. They're like, we're going to charge you. I said, okay, charge me whatever you want to charge me. But I'm gonna drop her off Saturday morning for her to take that test. She would later.
Listen, my mom wasn't playing that. We took the same thing in 10th grade. Like 7th grade, she wanted me to do it in 9th grade, but I guess with the scheduling of the time that it was, I was going to be away for travel basketball. And listen, at the time, I was happy because I didn't want to take it. It was one of those like Saturday mornings. It's a few hours.
Yep.
So like for me, it's like, mom, like I'm gonna be away, and luckily like the coach, it was a big tournament, and like they really needed, he needed all hands on deck. So like that's the only reason why, like, I would have took it in 9th grade, and I would have took it in 10th grade, but 7th grade she was just like, no. She was like, oh, you missed it this year? All right, next year you taking it. So I knew I would have to get the pre, SAT 10th grade, and then I took the SAT twice, one in 11th grade and one my senior year.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Your mom made sure
she was on top of it.
Yeah, she did her due diligence to put you in that best situation possible. And that's really just what I wanted to share today with parents that have kids or stepkids, grandkids, whatever it is, whoever your helping to nurture, that you're doing your part, and that you're doing, and if it means you got to get on the phone or pay $50 or whatever it is, if this is what you really feel that kid is going to be able to do best, then you got to give them your 110%. You can't tell your kid, oh, give up 10%, and then you don't put your 110% behind them. You know what I mean?
Like the last thing I would say, and because some parents are going to say, like, I have to work, I'm not going to be around as much and stuff like that. And I totally understand that. You got to keep a roof over your head and you got to keep food on the, on the table. Make sure you have a support system, whether it's a close friend that lives in the neighborhood, which is, it could be family, it could be friends, somebody that you trust your kids around that's going to, keep them, make sure that their grades or they're doing their homework and stuff like that when you're not home and stuff like that. So have that support system that, if, unfortunately you have to work late, you got to work 2 or 3 jobs, because I understand, you got to do what you got to do. So as a parent, whether it's 1 or 2, just make sure you have a support system, somebody just kind of, keep an eye on your kids and making sure they're doing the right thing, and staying on top of things.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Coach Trevor, for joining us. I'm going to get this up as soon as possible. Why don't you tell everybody where they can watch you coach? Why don't we plug Wifey's new line? Yes.
Yep. Definitely. So, again, I coach So I coach at Rampo College. Right now, like I said, this past, this season that's happening currently, we opted out. But we should be moving in the fall. So again, I'm at Rampo College. That'll be year 7 for me. Wifey just launched a new online store. It's called Cozy. What is it? Cozy Loungewear. And we have an Instagram page. We'll put a link on the website. Yeah. All right. So she's trying to get that, up and moving and stuff like that. I'm proud of her. She's always been an entrepreneur. And she's the better half. So since she's came into my life, a lot of things have happened. And I got this ring, Final Four ring.
And the other one
too. I have my first child, got married and stuff like that. So the saying, happy wife, happy life is so true.
Yeah, it's actually real. That's a real thing.
Listen, I know,
Yeah.
I know.
But life is good. I feel like of course. Anything I can do.
Family and stuff like that. So, listen, keep it going. You funny. I watch your show. I'm gonna watch that last episode because I saw the up on the YouTube thing, right?
You know already who's in this live. All the way live. The party ain't over. From the Say It Loud radio show.
Shout out to Coach Williams for checking in on Say It Loud podcast. I wanted to get this episode out earlier for March Madness, but we just have so much content to get out that I'm pushing it out the best I can, but the arsenal is full. So shout out to Coach Trev for coming on the show and just like dropping knowledge on us. I wanted to really share the sports and what it looks like for parents and that might have children and looking into sports and looking into colleges and what they need, because I feel like that's a discussion that we don't have with the parents as much as we have with the kids. So shout out to you for coming by and gracing us with your presence. Shout out to his wife, also has a lingerie/loungewear line. Check her out. It's really nice and lovely items, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. So shout out to you guys for coming through and participating. I shall Say It Loud podcast. We love you. You know we do. All right. Big shout out to all of our sponsors: Sweet Vibrations, She Orgasm, Momentum, Manscaped, Female Rituals. We love all of you. Make sure you guys go to my website. I added a page for you guys to be able to hit all of our links because we're growing and you can see all of the things that are going on at Say It Loud. So definitely check out the website at www.sayitloud.com for all things Karen L and Say It Loud. We'll see you guys next week. We out. Let's go.